friends, I'm Les Mood with the Energy Independence Show. Today we have Shiba Bhawmik from Sinewatts. He's the president and CEO. We're going to talk about the game-changing technology at Sinewatts, and we have some questions from our friends in India. So, Shiba, one of the first questions is, in the infrastructure with regard to the rural areas of India, will there need to be some upgrades, and how will the Sinewatts technology integrate with that infrastructure?
Thank you, Lex, for asking that question, and thanks to our friends in India. In particular, our technology is essentially what we have been calling is the micro-utilities on wheels. We bring the grid to where there is no grid on the wheels. So when it comes to the rural India, and in particular areas that have spotty electrification, we number one bring resiliency, reliability built into the infrastructure of the vehicle itself. And with respect to rural India, what we envision is this: that let's say there is a village community of about 100 families. And if you go through the math, and we have done that a little bit, if you go through the math, we are finding that for about 200 kilowatts of solar, it sustains a family, it sustains a community of about 100 families, along with only like 6 or 7 vehicles that have the platform of the Sinewatts technology built into it. It's actually quite transformational. So for less than, in other words, in financial terms, for less than about $200,000 to $250,000, we have the opportunity to transform the lives of 500 to 700 human beings and give them the opportunity of continuous electrification in their life.
Absolutely. We know another question is, how can the Sinewatts technology reduce the cost of electric vehicles for the people of India?
So with respect to the conventional vehicles that are being deployed today, we are the lowest cost platform and the lowest cost vehicle platform that can be brought to market. Primarily because of the integration of many different components that you and I have discussed before, that is necessary for the infrastructure to support sustainable electrification. So that's number one. So the vehicle cost goes down, the infrastructure cost is almost eliminated to a great extent. And with respect to, from the EV owner's perspective, they get a recurring income. So let's take, for example, there are multiple studies done. I'm going to use US numbers. The Indian numbers may be a little different and calculated in rupees. We are talking about $1,800 to $2,100 a year from vehicle to grid services, vehicle to community services, based off of the energy transactions. So you can conceivably imagine that over a lifetime of a vehicle, for about 10 years, we are talking about paying for majority of the vehicle cost. In many cases, probably the entire cost of the vehicle. And then after that, when you have million-mile vehicles, million-mile batteries built into the vehicles, we are talking about continuous income coming into the savings account for the vehicle owner.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's important in India that income and savings is considered as the middle class grows. This could be a way for the savings to drive that growth.
That's exactly right. The way we are looking at it is that, and you and I have briefly talked about it in other contexts, is that instead of a huge amount of infrastructure build, that money or that kind of resources is now getting equally distributed at the grassroots level, and thereby we are uplifting the communities that have been marginalized or compromised in the past.
So it seems like the Sinewatts technology is an opportunity, a game-changing technology that will uplift the opportunity of people in India as well. as increased the sustainability, reliability, and resilience of the grid in India?
Yeah, the other way to probably carry that thought a little bit further and extending it a little bit more is that we view it, and we are humble about this, that we have the opportunity to make a transformational change for more than 1 billion human beings, and there is no greater purpose for an entity or a group of people to be able to make this happen.
Yeah.
And we want everybody's help to make this happen.
I have a question. The government of India is very interested in renewable energy, and it's leading in the development there. But there have been recent developments where utilities and efforts on the government's part are focused on EV charging stations, and it looks like there's a lot of money rolling into that. Would you think that right now would be a good opportunity to consider the Sinewatts technology being built into the electric vehicles? And do you think that it would even be necessary for a major infrastructure to be built when you take this into consideration?
Yeah, well, very good question. So obviously our big play is the infrastructure cost reduction, and not only that, not just the cost aspect of it, the energy sustainability and scalability aspect of future deployment of electrical transportation or electric transportation. So maybe I'm going to answer your question a little differently, if I may. So there are 3 primary objectives that we believe we would be able to accomplish in India if this technology is deployed. Number 1 is that it is the infrastructure. We make it sustainable, we make it scalable, and we make it completely clean and highly efficient. Demand side energy efficiencies bring in disruptive transformation. So that's 1. Number 2, we believe that because the way the architecture would be deployed, and it is sustainable not just from a climate perspective, we also deliver equity in energy access. And that is very close and dear to me, because I do believe that as we are seeing with the rolling blackouts in California, the systems that are on the verge of the weaknesses, right? I mean, they are already compromised, and when severe amount of load will be demanded on the demand side and the generation side cannot handle it because of the intermittency of renewable generation, that is going to create unprecedented havoc and chaos on the grid. And believe it or not, I mean, it's probably almost obvious the most of the people that will suffer are the marginalized communities, because they cannot afford to bring in energy storage, whereas most other people in big cities and other places probably will. And so a big factor for what we're doing is we do believe that we have to bring everybody into the fray and help them through this process. It cannot be done by leaving out certain sectors and certain segments of the population to only go after electric transportation. It has to be done such that everybody can be part of it and nobody feels that they are left behind. Yeah. So that's number 2, if I may finish that. And number 3 is that obviously, I mean, the energy independence that comes along with it. So when we have our own power built into our homes and in our car, our thinking completely changes and energy efficiencies improve, and thereby we drive sustainability and cleanliness on the grid.
Yeah, if we drive innovation, we want it to be transformative and not disruptive, where everybody moves forward and no one gets left behind. And one of the questions was, how can money be made, or how can someone take an electric vehicle with Sinewatts technology and actually make money from it?
You mean from a manufacturer point of view?
From a consumer.
From a consumer point of view. So, yeah, I mean, it is the grid services. Let's take in context of the rural areas, right? So what we are going to be looking at this way, that as I gave you the example about a community of 100 villages, right, or 100 village families, about 500 to 700 people, can be powered by only 200 kilowatts of solar. Their energy usage is actually much lower than in the US. So we are talking about 700 kilowatt hours per day, if that too, and with a peak demand of maybe 40 kilowatts. And so if you look at all these numbers, it's actually manageable. So 200 kilowatts of solar deployed with maybe 6 or 7 vehicles, and if in India we call them the governance of the villages are called panchayats. If the panchayat would decide that, okay, we can have a few more vehicles, then they can address also the transportation needs. They can keep rotating the vehicles while the others are servicing the grid. So now you have microgrids built into the vehicle as part of the transportation requirements of their own needs. And so suddenly you get 2 or 3 more things out of the same vehicle, and thereby you are saving a lot of cost.
Right.
So we are looking at maybe $200,000 to $250,000 that can completely transform the lives of 500 to 700 people.
Right, and we know that DC fast chargers and the infrastructure costs required are into the hundreds of thousands, and so for what would otherwise be one charging station could transform the lives of a lot of people, and that's great to know that Sinewatts can do that. You know,
it's almost that, but I mean, just to be very clear that you and I are on the same page, the grid infrastructure build is not built into the cost. If there is a grid infrastructure, and that's the beauty of the rural aspect, it can be a microgrid. So we don't have to bring in huge power lines over many hundreds of miles of high voltage power lines anymore, because it's all contained in the same community.
Right, so you're leapfrogging the need for the infrastructure in the first place, as well as the localized
That's exactly
fast charging
correct.
units that would otherwise not be necessary with Sinewatts.
That is just simply not possible with the centralized platform with wires being brought over hundreds of
At
miles.
least not sustainably.
Yeah, and not sustainably, not as cost effective.
Right, and with the limited budget of any government or institution, it would only make sense to not incur that cost.
Not even venture that way, that's correct.
And another question is, as far as different types of vehicles, scooters and buses, and there's a lot of buses in India, there's a lot of scooters in India. Is it feasible to integrate the Sinewatts technology into those vehicles as well?
Yeah, the beauty of what we have been trying to accomplish, rather, I think, it just fell into place because of the architecture. It's fully scalable. And when I say scalable, not from a system scalability, which we can, which you and I discussed the other day, this is actually more in the implementation of the technology, because it's segmented. So we can handle, in other words, in India, we have the 2-wheelers, the 3-wheelers, and now the 4-wheelers, SUVs and others, right? So it's fully scalable for the entire vehicle segment, or the various vehicle segments of the Indian market. Now, we do believe that without getting into the meat of our business plans and all that, there is a sweet spot where we believe that the technology makes the biggest impact, and we would pursue that. And we'll be more than willing to work with partners to adopt our technology into the other segments.
Absolutely. You're working with a team, and this team of ambitious engineers is really impressive and inspiring. And my understanding is you've come up with a name for a prototype vehicle. Can you describe the meaning of the name and share that with us?
Yeah, we are still working through the trademarking process of that. Because we view the vehicle as a vehicle of electrification. So we came up with the name, what is the name for electricity in India, in Hindi, called Vidyut. So we are calling it the Vidyut India EV, the Vidyut India electric vehicle.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, Shiba. Thank you for your time and for your insights and for sharing your answers with the India audience, as well as encouraging everyone in India with your efforts. It's very inspiring and the potential is huge. Thanks again for your time. We look forward to seeing these rolling power plants everywhere, the scooters zooming around in India. You know, it's going to make a big difference in the world. Rolling microgrids is going to change the world. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. Feel free to like, comment, share, and follow, and make sure you visit Sinewatts.com.